Hello everyone, this is part 34 of What If Naruto Had a Hug That Changed Everything, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist. To see more, comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe, it gives me more motivation. Enjoy. Morning in Konoha. Jiraiya was peacefully slumbering at the front gates of the village, snoring obnoxiously. He stirred in his sleep as saliva trailed off of the side of his chin. Mind you, this wasn't his original intention. He was actually waiting for a certain someone to show up some time ago. He decided to just rest his eyes as he waited for him. Which brings us to where we are now. Unnoticed to Jiraiya, someone actually did make their presence and demonstrated this by dropping a heavy backpack of valuables on the ground, thus snapping the aged hermit out of his sleep. Nah! Jiraiya yelled before shooting his line of sight to the source of the disturbance while blinking several times before glancing down to his watch. What the hell took you so long? The smiling blonde known as Naruto, garbed in his latest black and red attire, slowly looked down at the grumpy sage with an obviously distracted look on his face. Oh, I was just at home, ya know, packin' bags, Naruto said as he slurred his words a little. Jiraiya shot to his feet with his eyes resembling the shape of golf balls. It takes you 10 hours to pack a few essentials. We were supposed to leave yesterday, he yelled when he finally noticed the faraway look in his would-be student's eyes. Naruto's facial expression was not particularly something that he'd seen before. Sure, he saw how content he looked after one of his mondo servings of ramen, but he had never seen this. It was almost as though he were looking at a completely different person. He looked truly blissfied, he looked as though he were emptied out of all of his troubles, he looked as though he were. HMHMHM. HMHMAHMHummer. Jiraiya chuckled, gaining a weird look from Naruto. What the hell's your problem? He. Ho ho. Wah ha 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 ha. He finally bwahaha, my boy's become a man, the toad sage chortled. Naruto eyebrow raised so much that he feared it would tear off of his own head if he didn't watch it. Edo-senin, you're freaking me out, he said as he slowly backed away from him. While still chortling proudly, Jiraiya walked over to the blonde and picked up his previously dropped backpack. Mahahaha, come on, Naruto. Let's just go, he said. Shaking off his weirded-out disposition, Naruto sighed and followed the strange old man. Jiraiya suddenly placed his hand upon the boy's shoulder and continued to laugh proudly. I swear, you're lucky that you were able to become a man on today of all days, otherwise I might have hit you with a Rasengan. Rasa wa. Totally irrelevant, my young pimp, I mean man. Ha 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 ha. Totally irrelevant. Now that they were both setting out on their journey of spontaneous wonders and out of the village, a certain pink-haired figure garbed in nothing but a partially undone silky white robe ran to the foot of the very gates, stopping as she saw the two figures walk off into the path illuminated by the rising sun. In truth, she wanted to see her blonde kitsune off before he left, but figured that he already knew that he had her best wishes already. Feeling whatever disappointment she had vanish into thin air, Sakura's body suddenly became puddy as she leaned upon a post of the gate, letting herself slide to the ground as her hair smeared upon it, thus causing several strands to loom over her eyes and face. With a hot blush accompanying her cheeks and her jade eyes glistening with nostalgic desire, Sakura watched both men fade out of her line of sight. She sighed longingly. Naruto. I love you, she said out loud. There she remained, swooning as she fantasized about her memories of her moments with Naruto. It was truly heaven in her world to have such a man, and she was so glad that she was able to show the guy how much she really loved him. Her graceful smile became even more vivid as she reminisced the fantastic moment that they shared. However, before she could continue, a hunchback old man carrying a small grey sack, walking slowly with a strange wooden cane and whistling a happy yet awkward tune came by. Slightly offset by this sight, Sakura unconsciously rose an eyebrow at the old man, who immediately stopped walking and looked into her eyes, not paying any attention to her half-en form. Well, what you waitin' there? Go on and get yo, man, he said in a very worn and shaky, old guy, voice before continuing his walk and happy out of awkward whistle. Still in a moment of confusion of the overly sudden moment, Bryfully wondered who the old geezer was but soon shook it off as her thoughts were flooded by his words. Go on and get yo, man. Those words simply made Sakura's desire skyrocket. Those words alone echoed throughout the corridors of her mind, and more, she wanted to follow Naruto, sts down in front of him and demand that he take her by force. Her eyes lustfully peered in the very direction that the blonde kitsune went. Her heart told her to go, but her mind was definitely telling her otherwise. She couldn't take it anymore, she had to take her mind off of it. She had to find a way to forget about Naruto at that moment before her recently awakened desires sped through her like a drill. With those thoughts in her head now, the pink-haired kunoichi rose to her feet and faced the rising sun, allowing the golden rays of life to hit her silky and exposed skin. She felt so complete it was ridiculous. Then, her thoughts trailed back to what had happened before her liberation. Feeling anger rise within her, she remembered what she promised to do when she ever got the chance, and with that last thought, she marched her exposed glistening self back to the village to confront a certain blonde whore. Yet, through all of her anger, no amount of adversity could possibly stave the memory of the toe-curling euphoria that she experienced last night. Out of, multi-centric flashback out of. Ino and Sakura were facing one another at Team 7's training grounds. Both girls were trying deathly hard not to throw the gloves off and K each other right then and there. It was a simple civilized conversation, or at least, it seemed that way. Ino, why are you doing this? Sakura asked with anger but mostly desperation and a hint of sadness. The blonde female broke eye contact with Sakura but retained her frown, HMPH. I don't know what you're talking about, she claimed. That's a lie and we both know it. Ino, why are you acting so weird around Naruto? What's the real reason you're doing what you're doing? She asked. Ino crossed her arms. Still, I don't know why you're pestering me with these nonsensical questions, Sakura, she insisted. That last sentence is what sparked the pink-haired kunoichi's fuse. Damn it, Ino. Stop lying to me. You think I'm so stupid and blind that I wouldn't notice how you're practically throwing yourself at Naruto, she yelled. Ino still kept her eyes from connecting with Sakura's as she blushed slightly. Just as I thought. So that's your little game, is it, Ino? To make me see the error of my ways and get me to see how wonderful Naruto is before you sweep him from under my ass. Is that how it is? Sakura questioned. At this, Ino shot back with surprising anger, reconnecting her eye contact. Of course not. Don't you get it? It's not that I want the guy, it's just that she paused. Sakura could feel her irritation flourishing as she put her hands to her hips and began tapping her foot on the ground. Well, she irked. The bleach blonde female sighed. Look, I just wanted you to. I don't know, to at least show a little appreciation or something, she said with a bit of a waning voice. Sakura raised an eyebrow. Oh come on, forehead. Ask yourself this, if I didn't knock some sense into you before, would you have been at Naruto-kun's side right now, or would you have been sulking in the delusion of loving Sasuke-kun? Ino said. Sakura's eyes slightly widened hearing this. I think not. Hell, if anything, you'd be asking him out for a date right now. Like I said before, if it wasn't for me, you'd be fawning over the guy like every other day, the turquoise-eyed genin proclaimed. This time, much to Ino's uncomfortable surprise, a smile slowly cracked upon her face. As this unsettling smile steadily widened, a somewhat taunting giggle was exhaled. It was actually rather maddening to Ino, but the laughter continued. What the hell's so funny? The blonde kunoichi said as she felt her anger slowly rising. Sakura willingly ceased her laughter to speak but kept her smile on her face. You think I'm that oblivious, huh? You really think that I don't know you as much as you know me? Now that's sad, she taunted. Ino's eyes reflexively twitched. And just what the hell is that supposed to mean? She said, unable to quell her slowly boiling irritation. Oh fine. Since you're gonna play stupid with me, I guess I can play along. Shut up and cut to the chase. HN. You knew how I felt about Naruto even before our little squabble all those weeks ago. So seeing me blow up on him just made you do it, eh? Well, I understand that, but what you didn't count on is what I understood underneath all of that, Sakura said. For some strange reason that she didn't allow herself to accept, Ino began to get very nervous. What the hell are you going on about, for he? I could tell, Just by the way you looked at him, Sakura trailed off as her smile faded from her facial features. You wanted him so badly after our mission with Anko-san. Ino unintentionally flinched, a move that she immediately regretted and inwardly cursed herself for. Sakura narrowed her eyes with affirmation. She's got her. Oh yeah, I was perfectly aware of the want that showed in your eyes, Ino. You thought you could hide it from me, but I knew. What I don't understand is why you didn't just make your move afterward. I know what kind of opportunist you are and you can't fool me, Sakura said. Shut up. I just didn't. Didn't what, Ino? I thought you saw how attainable he was when we went on that mission. That's not the point. So you were just going to wait until I got him and take him from me when the time suited you, huh? No. Just let me finish, Ino shouted as she tried overtime to compose her train of thought. I just didn't want you to be lonely. Again, Sakura raised an eyebrow. I know that I haven't been a likable person around Naruto-kun, even after we were kids. That's one of the reasons why I didn't make a move. I wanted to, but I also thought about how it would make you feel. Ya know, Ino said with a notable tremor of doubt in her voice. This tremor was not unnoticed by Sakura, who frowned deeply. Bulls, she said flatly. NGH, Nanny. I don't believe that for a second, Ino. How dare you just stand there and lie to my face like that, Sakura accused. What the hell is your problem, damn it? You're my problem. Now you listen to me and you listen good, Ino, cause I'm only gonna say this once. Stay away from Naruto. Despite what the hell you think, I am grateful that you helped me out, but I won't tolerate any more of your interference. You obviously like him. At that moment, Ino couldn't take any more. Her hands fell to her side, balled in fists with a very penetrating scowl embedded her face. So what if I do? It doesn't give you any reason to be such a selfish, undeserving bee about it, the blonde exclaimed. Sakura closed her eyes, taking a few seconds of silence before turning her back on Ino and began walking away. Her words made everything a bit too clear. Calling her selfish only suggested one thing, and Sakura was definitely not up for that idea. Of course, it was at that exact time that Ino realized that she just screwed up in her words, but also knew that it was too late to take them back. Was she walking away from her? Where the hell do you think you're going, B? Get back here right now, Ino yelled after her. The pink-haired genin actually did stop, only to slightly turn her head to Ino's direction with a spiteful glare that caused the blonde girl to slightly grimace, although it wasn't that noticeable. From there, the two of them stood, staring each other down with their sparks of adversity clashing more than ever before, and that was saying a lot. Breaking the silence, Sakura spoke her final words. You're too late, Ino. Briefly after staring at the angered and broken expression on Ino's face, Sakura, for some reason, found herself unable to look at it any longer. And with that, she fully faced the opposite direction and walked away from the blonde. Lucky for Ino, Sakura left at the perfect time as tears of her anger, envy and hopelessness finally fell from her face. She was indeed fortunate because she could no longer hold them after Sakura spoke her final words. Her tears cascaded down her face without hindrance of any kind. Ino saw no reason to keep them locked up anymore. Enough was enough. I hate you. You thing B, Ino huffed as she tried hard to suppress her strong sobs, her fists clenching harder and harder. After what I did for you, that's all you have to say to me. Though her tears were falling like Niagara, a scowl found itself on her face again, and it was a strong one. No, I won't stand for this. You hear me, B? Think you have control now. You think I'm just gonna sit here and let you do this to me? F you. You think I'm just gonna leave it at that and let you pull the covers over me? F you. The more her anger rose, the more her tears fell. It was rather obvious that she was holding a lot inside. With one angry sob, Ino whirled around and stormed off to a destination that only she knew. You think this is over, Sakura? You think I'm just gonna roll over and stop? No, I'm just getting started, Ino swore as she picked her pace up to an anger-fueled sprint. Meanwhile, the excitement was burning up a storm for one shirtless Naruto Uzumaki, who was trying to channel it all through pure physical exertion. Within one of the many training grounds of the village, Naruto was viciously performing adrenaline-driven push-ups all by himself. As the blonde boy excruciated his burning efforts, he grunted silently while several beads of sweat flung off of his body. The expression on his face definitely gave the impression that he was in an intense cycle of searching focus and wished not to be disturbed as he counted his 80th push-up. Okay, next is sit-ups, he said before immediately switching to the sitting position where he proceeded to do his sit-ups. Truth be told, this was a completely new alternative for relieving stress and overwhelming excitement, because an extreme case of the latter was exactly what Naruto was suffering at that moment, but he just recently discovered how much of it he could put to good use when he burned his seemingly limitless stamina off with a rock-hard session of simple training exercises. Plus it was a great way to keep his mind focused. It was actually rather funny. When he was younger, he trained like this almost every day of his life. But given the chance to reflect on things in his life as of late, he deduced that it was because of his crammed obsession of proving himself and becoming stronger, both of which he was able to accomplish before and after the Chunin exams had begun. Now that he has, Naruto inwardly laughed at the prospect of how far he's gotten in such a short time. Of course, he did have help. The shirtless blonde smiled to himself without realizing it as he continued his rhythmic exercises. Unbeknownst to Naruto, however, a certain someone was concealed behind the trunk of a tree watching his workout. This certain someone just so happened to be a girl who knew Naruto and just so happened to stumble upon him while he trained and just so happened to be blushing madly while ogling at his glistening and toned upper body. Holy crap, she thought with awe and amazement, he's even hotter than I gave him credit for, and that's saying a mouthful. The girl's blush deepened and darkened as she watched the blonde Jinchuriki have at his training, counting his sit-ups and performing them with inspiring effort and humbling grace. Watching the sparkling sweat fly off of his moistened and decently shaped body not only sent shivers down her spine but it also made her legs quibble with weakness and found herself compelled to lean against the tree she is behind as her breath felt as though it were being stolen from her just by watching the blue-eyed Kitsune nin work. So, hard to take eyes off of, she thought to herself as she tried frustratingly hard to pry her eyes off of the smexy blonde shinobi before her, just remember what you came here for, Ino. Got to stay focused. Predictably, Ino's outward actions did exactly the opposite of what her mind was telling, still finding it rather impossible to enact her little. She was entirely too fixated upon Naruto glistening bod, to really focus on anything but that. However, when the blonde genin ceased his sit-ups and rose to his feet with his back turned to her, Ino was slightly disappointed but simultaneously hopeful that she would finally be able to make her first move. But, before she could act, a sudden puff of smoke came into the fray, following suit by a cage bushin. A little curious as to what was going down, Ino absent-mindedly stayed put and watched the stamina-crazed Jinchuriki. Within seconds, the bushin and the real Naruto faced one another, assuming battle-ready stances. Okay, we'll go for one more hour and then it's off to find Ero Sennin, Naruto ordered. Hi, the clone responded before charging at Naruto like a lion with rabies, viciously throwing insanely fast and accurate punches and kicks at him. The blonde boy readily parried, dodged, blocked, and countered the attacks and pushed himself whenever the assault picked up in difficulty. Now seeing this, Ino's blush returned to her facial features as she gripped the tree she hid behind. Whoa, two identical guys with glistening muscles fighting each other. Now that's hot, she thought with trembling breaths as she watched the two Narutos go at it. What happened next was something that would probably wreck everything as far as Ino's plans were concerned. This alone was enough to make the blonde female nearly jump put pf her skin and melt into a thin pile of ooze. And all it took was one whiff of the air. Oh god, it's that smell again, Ino fretted as her eyes started to slowly dim out. Ever since the mission with him, Sakura and Anko, Ino's memory of the glorious scent that Naruto gave off was still present, and so were the sudden blazing desires that followed suit. Only difference between now and then was the fact that Naruto was completely shirtlessly this time, allowing his addicting scent to practically pollute the air and nearly drive Ino to insanity. The turquoise-eyed female began to sweat furiously as she resisted her rising urges. God damn you Naruto-kun. You hot son of a F. Ino agonized, not knowing how much longer she could just stand there and take it, and her shaking didn't help her stay focused on her initial goal. Why does everything that could possibly go wrong for me? It's bad enough that I had to take Sakura's S, now I can't get back at her without blowing my cover, damn it. Immediately realizing that she just made a big no-no, Ino slapped her hands over her mouth just as the real Naruto slipped up in his footing before he could dodge an upcoming haymaker from his bushin, shifting his head to the direction of the distraction. Ino-chan, Naruto said just before the previously mentioned haymaker collided with the side of his face, sending a wave of force rippling through the other side, causing his skin to flap on the other side. Naruto was careened through the air on a low trajectory before crashing through a tree and slamming head first into the dirt, sliding across it while his head was being pile-driven into it. The bushin who was responsible for this had its eyes protruding out of their sockets as its fist was still extended forward. Out of comical impulse, the bushin cranked its fist to its far side, and slammed it into his own face, resulting in his banishment from existence. Naruto, are you alright? Ino screeched before running to the unconscious blonde with several apologies. Out of, flashback interruption out of. Outside of Konoha gates. Naruto and Jiraiya were walking down the dirt path to Otofukugai. The white-haired toad sage was actually getting a little uncomfortable due to the silence that loomed over the two. Naruto hadn't said a damn thing about the new technique that he promised he'd teach. No yelling, no jumping, no hustle, no rushing, no nothing. It was kind of unfitting. Once the two men reached a rest, the area with the small building on a hill with large bell decorating it, Jiraiya spoke up. Oi, Naruto, he called out, gaining the blonde boy's attention, let's rest here a while, huh? Looking at the old man for a little while longer, he was practically in his face in an instant. I thought you'd never say that. Tell what the deal is with this whole new technique. Deal, I'm pumped, Naruto exclaimed, surprising the living hell out of Jiraiya, who smiled at the flamboyance. Oh, that, Jiraiya trailed before walking up the hill and sitting next to the building. Well, actually, I was thinking that you may not be ready to learn it yet. It's not your ordinary technique, ya no. Naruto's face grew blank. Why did you bring me here? He suddenly asked. Don't. Me. You said that you were gonna teach me a powerful technique if I went with you, and I'm not seeing any result. The blue-eyed demon container GSED. The L-Ed hermit grimaced slightly. Well, I did say that, didn't I? He said with a slight sigh, gaining a furious and anxious nod from Naruto. At this, Jiraiya sighed again before lowering his head. Maybe he was getting too comfortable with a silent Naruto cause he was about to hear it now. Naruto, this technique isn't for kids. It may actually take you a couple of weeks just to master the basics of it, and I'm only saying that, because I'm dealing with a talentless hack, he commented. Naruto's face fell to dark scowl. You promise breaking, dream-shattering son of a. But, the white-haired old man interjected, I can give you a little tiny tip about what to do and how to do it if you tell me what happened yesterday and why you couldn't make it. Better yet, why don't you just tell me about you and that Sakura girl just to pass the time? At this, Naruto blushed a little before crossing his arms and breaking eye contact. Jiraiya smiled at this. Well, the blonde Jinchuriki huffed, okay, I'll be vague, but if I don't get results, we're gonna have some problems, he said before taking a deep breath. Since Jiraiya already knew what happened, he simply waited for Naruto to start talking. Well, it was a Tuesday. Jiraiya, Naruto, I remember the very first day I saw. I swear she was so cute I just couldn't help but want to befriend her. Jiraiya pulls out a little red book and starts writing in it. Yes, go on. Naruto, she had the sweetest voice. I remember her greeting me so timidly before. She was actually covering her forehead if I can remember right. What the hell are you doing? Jiraiya ceased his writing and looked down at Naruto with an innocent smirk. What? He said. I said what are you doing, and what's with the book? We'll talk about it when you're older. But, when you're older, the middle-aged Sanin stressed before replastering his smile and turning his attention back to his book. Now then, about your store. Hey, where are you going? To train by myself since someone is still a stick about it. God, said a frustrated Naruto who was already quite a distance away. The Sanin smiled to himself and shook his head. This kid, let me tell ya, he thought to himself before catching a glimpse at a previously unnoticed skull strapped horizontally to his lower back. When he read what it said, his smile widened. Kage Bushin, huh? So the kid's not only taking his training into his own hands, but he taking the depths of it to the next level already, he thought rather proudly. In the previously over-hyperactive blonde before him, Jiraiya saw the spitting image of the greatest shinobi to ever grace the inner walls of Konoha. I guess you two are more alike than I had originally thought. Minato. Back at Konoha, a now fully dressed Sakura was on the silent war path to her destination. She was definitely in no rush. She wanted to savor the burning desire to off the face of a certain blonde bee and feed it to her. To anyone else who woke up that morning expecting to see nothing but a bright and welcoming day was sadly blindsided by the vengeful Sakura. Mind you, she didn't look evil, she just looked very focused on something, and from what everyone else who saw her could tell, she had never been more focused in her entire life. Just the thought of the pain she would bring her victim made her reflexively crack her knuckles. For anyone who knew her, they could easily deduce that Sakura had gone through a bit of a change since the last 24 hours. Out of, flashback continuation out of. Twilight. Naruto and Ino were both laid out on the ground, heaving for air on the opposite sides of each other. Both genin were stationed at another one of Naruto's favored spots of the village. Hey, when you've been to almost every nook and cranny of the place, you tend to get a few faves here and there. Anyway, the first to catch their breath was the jacketless Naruto, who sat up stared down at the exhausted Ino while wiping sweat from his brow. That was perfect, Ino-chan. I'd forgotten how much stamina and resilience you have, the black-clad nin complimented. After finally catching her breath, Ino steadily rose to sit on her knees and offered Naruto a grateful smile. Thanks, Naruto-kun, she said sweetly, resting her hands upon her lap. Naruto flashed his lady friend his foxy grin. So, you think that help at all in finding out where you stand in taijutsu? He asked. Ino exhaled a relaxing sigh before answering, actually it did, and I can't say I'm too happy with my progress. Taijutsu is something that I'm not even good at by comparison. What kind of kunoiki am I? She berated herself. Naruto frowned. What? Oh. Come on, Ino. All you need is a little practice. I mean, it's not like anyone can just walk out of their mother's womb and instantly know how to fight, right? He said. At this comment, Ino blinked twice at his blunt disposition, finding it all the more appealing. I guess you're right. Besides, you'll help me practice, won't you? She knowingly asked. Pounding his fist upon his chest, Naruto responded, of course. You're my partner too, ya no. We gotta stick together, he proclaimed. The purple-dressed kunoiki smiled and blushed slightly. Naruto-kun, she thought, rather dazed. Ino-chan, you're a little red. You didn't overexert yourself, did you? Naruto asked with concern. Quickly realizing that her blushes were starting to symbolize her undoing more and more, the bleach blonde female tried to calm herself as much as possible to quell her blush while covering her cheeks with her hands. You are. Yeah, I guess I did. A little, she lied. At that, Naruto's alarms went to yellow alert. Oh, okay. Wait here, I'll go get you some water or something, he said before raising to his feet. However, just as he was about to turn to run off, a pair of hands strongly grasped his wrist, causing him to completely miss his first step, resulting in the inevitable plummet. His brain was able to process what was happening quickly enough to know that this was gonna hurt. He knew that his head was on a direct collision course with the ground and he awaited it. However, when he landed, the feeling he got wasn't exactly what he was cringing for. Instead, he felt his cheek fall into something soft. Yes, it was hard to believe, but as far as his experience went, Naruto always thought that the ground was hard and rocky, not perky and soft, and warm. Top that off with the fact that the ground never made little squeals when you hit it. Almost immediately after this strange feeling, he felt two slender arms quickly wrap around his head, holding him tight against the weird substance. After only a few seconds he was able to gain his bearings and realized that he wasn't on the ground. Hell, it wasn't even anywhere near it. Naruto-kun, he heard a slightly bewildered voice from above him. Suddenly, Naruto was starting to freak and the racing sound of a beating heart didn't soothe this feeling either. It was only when he looked up and saw the face of Ino did Naruto shot out of her arm's grip and to his feet, waving his hand before himself. OS. I'm so sorry, Ino-chan. I mistimed my step. Forgive me, the blonde boy shouted apologetically before turning to run off and forever live in shame for the unforgivable wrong that he just did. But once again, a hand shot out and kept him in place by his wrist. Wait, Naruto-kun. It's okay, Ino cried out, forcing herself to stand as well. Confused but still mostly ashamed, the black-clad blonde stared at Ino. Wait. You mean you're not mad? He questioned with doubt. Ino inwardly sighed in relief. Of course not, crazy. It was an accident, she said sweetly. So, you won't hit me over the head and call me AL. No. And you won't malice me shoehorn. Now why would I do tar malice you with a shoehorn? Naruto scratched the back of his head. Right. I guess that would be kinda freakish, he admitted with a sheepish smile. Ino returned the exact smile. Yeah, it sure would. Besides, it was my fault anyway, she said. Those words calmed Naruto down a great deal as a relieved smile crept upon his face. And also, I want you to, well, you know, stay with me for a little while longer, Ino nervously admitted. Not really finding any reason to argue with that, Naruto sat back to the ground and stretched out the joints of his limbs before lying down on the lush grass with his hands behind his head. Ino soon joined him and together, they gazed upon the orangish blanket of twilight as the stars were just starting to appear. There they remained, both enjoying the company of the other as the twilight faded and the night rained the starlit sky. The blue-eyed Jinchuriki sighed, this has always been one of my favorite spots in the entire village. The view is absolutely breathtaking, he said as he felt his worries and doubt washing away with the flow of time. I'll say, Ino murmured as she gazed upon the wonderful sight before her. Only problem was that she wasn't looking at the stars. With another sigh of relaxation, Naruto said something that made his fellow blonde's heart nearly jump out of her chest cavity. I'm really glad I met you, Ino-chan. You're just great, he said with sincerity. The turquoise-eyed female had to choke back a gasp to hide her shock. She started to wonder exactly what he meant by that, and that alone was enough to make her go nearly insane with anticipation. She couldn't take it anymore. It was time to act. Naruto-kun, Ino called out, gaining the said boy's attention. How do you feel about me? How do you really feel about me? At this, Naruto turned to Ino with a confused glance. Ano. I think you're a fun person. I'm glad that you don't beat around the bush too much and you're easy to talk to. That's why I'm happy I have you as a friend, he said without hesitation. The young Yamanaka was frankly shocked by Naruto's honesty. No matter how much she thinks she knows the guy, he never ceases to amaze her. But that feeling would have to wait until she was finished. I'm glad. Now, what about Sakura? How do you feel about her? She asked directly. Naruto raised an eyebrow and almost laughed at that. Come on, Ino-chan. I already told you that I love Sakura-chan and that would never change. Ever, he claimed with confidence. Ino rose to a sitting position and looked down at Naruto with desperate eyes. I understand that much. Very well, in fact, she said. Sensing something wrong, Naruto also rose to sit up and faced Ino directly. Ino-chan. Is everything okay? All of a sudden you seem kind of down. Did something happen? He questioned with concern practically leaking from his voice. No, it's not that. I just wanted to know something. It's been on my mind for a while now and I wanted to ask you about, she said, growing more and more nervous and timid. Of course. You can ask me anything, Ino-chan, Naruto said, opening his ear to what his fellow blonde had to say. What the young man didn't expect at that very moment was a hand take his own into its grasp and caress it softly. Naruto-kun, I know that you love Sakura with all your heart and would never dream of leaving her. Was all Naruto could say. This time, Ino used both of her hands to grasp the young Uzumaki's, and I know that you're loyal to a fault, she continued as she shifted her body to directly face the boy. Ino-chan, what are you saying? Naruto-kun. I wanted to know. Out of all of the time we've known each other as a whole, you, me and Sakura. Have you ever thought it possible? I mean possible in the absolute slightest, she whispered as she brought Naruto's fingers to her lips, that you could love me too. His ears were lying to him, they had to be lying to him. Unless he was high off of instant, Naruto could have sworn that Ino just asked him to love her, or something around boundaries. Before the confused boy could really respond, Ino used her hand to open the palm of his and pushed lightly against her cheek. Do you love me? Naruto-kun, she asked him again. Naruto couldn't even think straight, let alone speak properly. In fact, the only thing that was roaring through his head at that moment were on the grounds of, how the F did this happen? Unfortunately for the blonde boy, Ino looked as though she read his distress and answered his question. You see, Naruto-kun, over these past few weeks, I've been thinking, she cooed as she brought Naruto's hand back to the edge of her soft lips, thinking about you, and me, and how much we both changed. Blinking several times, Naruto finally remembered to breath before reacting in a very interesting way. Hey, he. Of course, I get it. Woo-ah-ha-ha-ha-ha, this is all a dream. Yeah, that's it. A dream. Ha-ha-ha-ha. Why, I bet if I were to snap my fingers right now, you'd turn into giant camel spider and start eating my face, Naruto said in a mentally unstable kind of fashion. Smirking devilishly, Ino shot her hand over the sides of Naruto's head. You've got one right, she growled before viciously lounging her head onto his, devouring his lips in a crazed and ravenous kiss. Once again, Naruto found himself unable to react properly as he did something that he would most likely regret for the rest of his life, returning the kiss out of impulse. Of course, he realized this at that last moment and pulled away to protest. Ino-chan, what are you doing mmmph? Naruto tried to say but was cut off by Ino's relentless oral assault, again causing him to melt at the sensation. Wasting no time, the hungry Kunoichi pushed harder against the black-clad nin's mouth, successfully part his lip and granting her full access to his wet tongue. Once both of their tongue made contact, Ino took the initiative to gently clamp her teeth down on it and pull it out of his mouth before continuing to make out with him. The taste of his mouth only drove her to further intensify her efforts as she meshed their tongues together herself while practically inhaling Naruto's lips. The blonde boy's eyes dimmed out and narrowed as he peered into Ino's wanting eyes. They were soaked with suppressed desire. Again, catching Naruto off guard, Ino lounged her body forward, thus tackling the shaggy-haired blonde on his back. Breaking the savory kiss, Ino parted Naruto's legs apart with one of her knees. Taking this time to speak, Naruto finally thought that he could get a protest in. What the hell is this? Why are you, gasp? He gasped when he felt a firm grip clasp upon his C. He looked down only to see Ino's hand roughly groping his sack through his black plants. This feeling was completely alien to him. His spine felt as though it spun a 180-degree turn and the top of his head went numb. This time his eyes were wide and vivid instead of narrow and dull. Does this answer your question, Naruto-kun? Ino teased in a sultry voice and smirk. Just relax and let me show you some appreciation. Ino-chan, don't you think this is a little much? Naruto tried to calmly protest despite his rising urges and anger. Oh, and we can't forget about his rising shaft, can we? It was true, even though Naruto was growing increasingly angry by these actions, he had never been so turned on in his life. Once Ino's hand was done with his sack, it moved to smother his throbbing C, making him all the harder. This has gone far enough. Stop it, he weakly demanded. PSH. Like Ino could actually hear him. Despite her marvelous job, this was her first time handling a C and the feeling was totally unreal to her. As the pulsations of Naruto's shaft strengthened, her desires overflowed. She could feel it getting bigger and harder and it was driving her up the wall and around the corner. For a reason she couldn't grasp her mind around, her mouth began salivating. Part of this was because of the now fully grown bulge in Naruto's pants, pointing in her direction. The heat of the moment was so intense that she couldn't deny it. She wanted to taste him. She wanted to taste every inch of him. She wanted to hold him and please right then and there. So it was only natural that she couldn't hear his increasingly angry demands to stop. Instead, Ino took the bulge of the pants into her mouth, gently clamping her teeth down around it and smothering the bottom of it with her tongue. Ah, that's enough. Just stop it, alright, the hardened blonde nearly yelled. No. Ino said flatly after pulling away from the bulge and hooking her fingers onto the helm of Naruto's pants. I need this. She started pulling them down. As Naruto felt the breeze creep upon his waistline, he frowned with anger and burning lust. It was as though he were being pulled by two different forces at once and it was driving him nuts. Ino further pulled the troublesome garments down past the fully stiffened C and waited for it to swing back and slap her face. She playfully entertained that thought and found herself smiling at it. However, The heated kunoiki couldn't bask in these feelings for long as she felt two hands shove against her shoulders and launch her off of Naruto completely. Landing on her ass with a painful thud, Ino looked up to see a fuming Naruto, an angry Naruto. He was actually hyperventilating. What the hell is wrong with you? The angry blonde shouted. The tremor of Naruto's voice was actually frightening. He was actually mad at her. She could already feel his scorn and she cringed at it. I just wanted to. No, I don't want to hear it, he yelled again as he shot to his feet. Naturally, the bulge in his pants were gone. Why would you do something like that? We're supposed to be friends, he shouted. Ino was becoming increasingly more desperate as she realized more and more that she had just made a terrible mistake. But, we are friends, Naruto-kun, she protested, I just wanted to make you. I don't know, feel good, she stammered. Wrong answer. Feel good. Feel good. This is an outrage. You knew that I love Sakura-chan and yet you try to pull something on me. What did you want me to do, betray her? Ino shot to her hands and knees. No. Please, just hear me out. It's not that I wanted you to betray her, I just don't know, okay. I guess I wanted to see what it was like, she uneasily explained with tears building up in the rim of her eyes against her will. What it was like, Naruto practically spat. Hi. When I told you I've been thinking, I meant it, Naruto-kun. I just wanted feel what it would be like to be with someone. I mean actually be with someone. Especially someone as wonderful as you, Ino whispered to suppress any sobs that might have escaped her breath, knowing full damn well that she was taking a huge risk. The silence that Naruto expelled was only making the blonde female more and more nerve-wracked. All he did was stare at her with empty eyes, an expression that Ino has grown to be wary of and really didn't particularly like it. Naru. No. I'm done here, he interjected. Ino's tears finally broke through her wool and fell down her face. What do you mean? She reluctantly asked, fearing the answer she might have gotten. I can't look at you right now. I have to go, Naruto said, not so much in an angry voice, but a saddened one. But Naruto-kun, that will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.